All right, everybody. So now we've filled out, taken some time, looked at a few lessons, have filled out 3 lessons worth of asynchronous and synchronous instruction, thinking about when I'm going to do video recordings or not, when we're going to be live, and what we're going to do asynchronously. So now I'm going to try to put this into the calendar, and this is where it becomes a complex puzzle. And so we're using this blank calendar that's been color-coded to think about the pathways. So this is the model 1A from the chancellor. Your school may be using this model, or they may be using a different model. So this is model 1A from the chancellor. Your school may be using this model or a different model. So as we go through here, we see that the asynchronous sections of this template match the asynchronous sections of this. That said, you may realize something you were planning on doing asynchronously might fit better when you're live with them, or it might not. So we will see. You just have to be flexible in the process. So I'm starting with cohort A. In week 1 and week 2, we want to really pay attention to building community and resilience. And so we're going to reserve those weeks for really thinking about those activities. And we're going to talk more about what you would do in certain contents later this week. So please join us then. So here we're going to think about, what are we doing synchronously? So I was thinking, all right, I'm doing these things synchronously. I'm copying and pasting directly from here and we want to think about, how does this work out? Is it taking too long? If it is, what can we do more in class? And so I'm thinking about this, and the solve and share is just your opening and guided practice. And I'm not doing the visual learning. So maybe I can do a little bit more in class, especially if I have like a 90-minute block. So I'm going to change that. This is going to be my lesson flow in class. We'll start together. We'll do a guided practice. We'll kind of think through this deeper math problem together, and then we'll break out into small groups. All right. Now, that's going to be my same flow for when I see cohort B for the first time, and that will be Wednesday. Now, in between that, I'm thinking about this lesson 1 activities, all these asynchronous things that we're thinking about. The visual learning and convince me, the practice buddy, independent practice. So I kind of am thinking, okay, I want them to do this visual learning and convince me and the practice buddy. That's what I'm going to have them do asynchronously the first day. And then I also want them to do this problem solving. And this is where I might get out of order a little bit. Math practice and problem solving on the Padlet, the enrichment worksheet, and then do a quick check for understanding after those things. So that would be added to their playlist. And so that asynchronous instruction is going to happen here. And here. So here we are, looking at this calendar and starting to see, oh no, lesson 1 is taking 1 whole week. And that's something we want to be really mindful of, right? It's easy to try to do too many components and stretch them out in one tiny thing a day. And that's not going to be the best for our students. And honestly, it's going to bore them a little bit to stay on the same thing for too long. So we want to think about, how can we really adjust this so that we are maximizing our time, not rushing, but also not just spinning our wheels. So I'm looking at this and I realize that although this is asynchronous, I could still have this during the synchronous time we have together. And if we have additional time, we would go into the intervention activity and centers games again during that synchronous instruction. Now, the synchronous group is also aligned with the asynchronous group. But instead of doing this on a Padlet, we're going to be doing it live in class. here we have this asynchronous learning, the visual learning and convince me practice buddy, and the synchronous learning the first time we see the kids. So we really are going to be done with lesson 1.1. And then we're going to think about, I've gone through 1.2 and 1.3, and I haven't chosen as many components because again, I'm looking at the standards and I'm trying to think what's the highest leverage learning activities to meet these standards. So I've realized I can combine some of this in service of meeting the standards. So synchronously, I'm going to be doing 1.2, the solve and share, and the math and science activity with butterflies in flight, and then really thinking about 1.3, that problem. And although we think about math very linearly, it's not. We can really think about how all of these different strategies are in service of multiplication. And so doing them together can actually lift a lot of the conceptual understanding for kids. And that's something to think about, how the different strategies support the major concept. And then for asynchronous instruction, we're going to be focusing on the visual learning, the practice buddy, and the exit ticket. We also want them to think about starting the solve and share, and we wanted to record a video for that. I'm also looking at this again and thinking, oh, the practice buddy, independent practice, and the exit ticket, they're somewhat repetitive. They're asking very similar questions. And so I'm thinking, instead of doing the quick check and having that data kind of twice, I'm just going to have the practice buddy. And then here, while we're in class, we could even do the quick check as a way to check for understanding in the actual synchronous time. I haven't done all the things I was planning on doing, and there's a couple centers, activities, and small group instruction. So I'm hoping that during the synchronous time, we can come back to that, but if not, we will be able to do that in a later lesson, in lesson 4 or so. So here we are. We're thinking about how to combine these different lessons to make a clear learning path for students, keep them relatively at the same pace, and have a guide for us to keep track of where we are with each group, what we need to assign to their playlists, and what we need to prepare for in-class instruction.